I
Oh
wore
yeah,
Jazz colors
you know,
tonight in honor of their first victory.
since all the social media is purple and the jerseys are still yellow.
Yeah,
Ugh. Keontae finally played well tonight,
there you go.
so that's nice. It's nice. Walker Kessler was really good. So
Cooper Flag's gonna be great.
sag for flag, baby. And we welcome you to season 2, continuing week 9 recap here on Wilk and Wiss.
Have you lost track? Do you
Yeah,
know what episode
I have
number it
no
is?
idea what
Because
episode number
I
we're
don't.
on. No, it got to the point where it's like, it was easy last year when we were doing a once weekly thing,
That's
right?
what I'm saying.
This is week 1. Oh, this is episode 2. This is week, you just added on
Mm-hmm.
an episode. Not the case. Not the case anymore. And that's a good thing. I like that we do
Yeah.
it twice a week.
Oh, I love
This
it.
is good therapy for me, man. I'm gonna can we just bro for a minute here? It was a rough
Absolutely.
day. It was a rough
Yeah.
day. Kind of a rough. Been going through. Been going through a bit of a rough patch.
Also,
Whole 3 days actually.
yeah, you've done 30 Rock now, so it's been a rough week. Lemon, it's Monday, the week of election.
I quoted that to my wife about 2.5, 3 hours ago,
Yup.
and that word for word. I'm like, it's a good thing I've seen 30 Rock now. Because
Perfect.
Lemon, it's Monday. I mean, just yeah. And given what else is going, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
it's the words of Kevin McAllister. Woof. So I'm glad we do this twice a week, man. That'll be
Yeah.
good. That'll be good. Well, let's just start with Monday night. There's no Utah connections, and it's
Chiefs.
fresh on our mind.
Yeah.
Man, DeAndre Hopkins looked good. Like that's exactly why you bring a guy like
How
DeAndre Hopkins
how do
in.
we let this happen? This was the old Patriots thing in the middle of their dynasty. Once a year, they would just get the most random. How did we let that fall through the cracks? How are we letting Tom Brady get away with this? Now the Chiefs have just taken that mantle.
Yeah,
They're doing it again.
yeah. Why did Tampa not go? By the way, final score: Kansas City 30, Tampa Bay 24 in overtime. 3 overtime games this week, by the way, which was fun.
A lot of close games just across the board. It was
Yeah,
good.
yeah, it
Good
was
week of
really good.
Sunday football.
I felt kind of bad missing 2 weeks ago when I was driving back from Vegas, but like I made up for it yesterday. There were some good games again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
man,
end game.
why does Tampa not go for 2 there?
Why do they call the timeout? Right. So you
That
can get up
yes,
there. You call the time. Okay. So you call. The reason that you call the timeout early is so that you still allow your play action to have the appearance that you could run the football because you have enough time. What you actually should do is keep the timeout in your pocket. You run a play action play on first down. Maybe, just tell Baker, hey, sail it out of the end zone if no one's even close. But you try play action on first down, threaten that. Then second or third down, dealer's choice, you do run the ball because you do have the timeout in your
yeah,
pocket. And when you do that, you let the clock run all the way under 10 seconds before you call your timeout because you just have one or two more pass plays anyway, and that's all the more downs you have. They don't do that. They call the timeout at 30 seconds. It takes them 2 plays to just throw it into the end zone. They threw on first down. It was incomplete, so no time goes off the clock. The Chiefs have a chance, right? So Patrick Mahomes doesn't get it done, whatever. Now we can talk overtime rules. Anyway, so they get the
2 near
touchdown. They don't go
interceptions.
for two. And then, so yeah, that's the not going
Yeah,
for two that is also a conversation. Anyway, Patrick Mahomes almost throws interceptions, whatever. And then they win the coin toss. Patrick Mahomes just drives down the field. They get the touchdown. They end the game because overtime is still not right.
no. I mean, the fact that we can end in a tie is still not right. Let alone, yeah, ugh. Baker's reaction said it all, man. At the coin toss, love that guy. Love that he fought with his 2 receivers without his 2 best receivers
Yeah.
tonight. Made things happen, and like their schedule's still very favorable. Like Tampa Bay could still very easily get a wild card spot, even though Atlanta's starting to pull ahead a little bit. That schedule gets favorable for them, so we'll see. Anyway, yeah, once at same stuff, different week when it comes to Kansas City.
Yeah.
So
And it's another one score game. I love playing the game of they say that one score games are a toss up. And so at some point you can go and flip it the other way of, turn all your one score wins into losses and losses into wins. And the Chiefs have come out randomly. Like, and so at some point,
It's
it's
gonna
not
happen.
random.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, whether it's good coaching, or Patrick Mahomes, or refs, or other teams choking because it is the Chiefs on the other side, or whatever it is, the Chiefs just have it.
Yeah. It's championship DNA. It's what it's the Patriots, man. It really is. It's just
Yeah.
championship DNA. They just know how to do it. Thursday night football
Wind
was
all the way back. This was
bizarre.
forever ago.
I know. Kind of weird. Jets looked like maybe how they were somewhat supposed to look like. 21-13 win over the Texans. Dalton Schultz, your only Utah connection, 3 catches, 21 yards for Schultz.
Oh yeah, the Jets looked exactly how we thought they would with Malachi Corley dropping the ball, pulling a Utah Utes right there at the end zone.
I'm not saying anything this week, man. You can try and get it out of me. I'm not talking trash this week. It's just not
It's
happening.
look, even casual like Big Ten football fans know that that's the go-to gif when you
Yeah.
drop the ball before.
Yeah. You can even put a President Hinckley talk behind it, and it works out.
Yes.
That kind of a thing. But yeah, Houston's just. I don't know. I feel like there really was. I mean, CJ Stroud completed passes to 3 different guys, which was great for me in guillotine because Tank Dell was one of those guys. But like, I don't know. The offensive line just looks bad right now.
CJ
And
Stroud is
it's not. It's
still good. He's on the right trajectory,
yes,
but there is a
yes.
sophomore slump just in general around
I
D'Amico and Bobby
yeah,
Slowick, around everyone else around CJ Stroud. Like, and he's not perfect. He didn't take that big leap that I think too many people were just automatically projecting onto him
sure,
when we said, "Oh, he's top 5." No, he was playing about top 10 to 12-ish last year, and guess what? He's playing around top 10 to 12-ish again this year. He just didn't take a
right.
huge leap, and his even though the supporting cast got better, right, with adding Diggs, now Diggs is out anyway, and it's not always addition by addition in the NFL. You got to figure out your dynamics. And so, yeah, they just and I was the most guilty of it. The Texans were
Yeah,
my Super Bowl pick out of the
yeah,
AFC, and it just this isn't going to be their year. There will be a year, but this isn't it.
yeah. Well, and Joe Mixon's been a good addition. That's been solid for them. But yeah, the offensive line's got to figure something out in pass pro because I think it was like 11 of 30, something like that. Like it was not
Yeah.
good. So
Sunday slate. Let's get going. Morning games starting with Atlanta over Dallas, one of the many one-score games. Atlanta gets the win 27-21. Tyler Algier, 6 carries, 18 yards, got the touchdown. Kaden Ellss, 13 tackles. One of them was a sack, 2 tackles for loss, 3 hits on the quarterback, just all over the place. And Dak was feeling it for the whole time. And now apparently Dak's going to be missing some time with that
mm-hmm.
hamstring injury that they weren't sure was going to be that severe. And then over on the Cowboys side, Nick Vigil had 2 tackles.
I tweeted this out after the game and it didn't get any interaction, which is fine. I don't expect that. Sometimes it's just me sharing thoughts, right? That's half of the
Yeah.
battle with Twitter. Um, is Jerry Jones the only owner in sports that has a press conference after every
Oh my
single
God.
game? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we? It's not surprising, but what are we doing?
But and to be fair, I don't know of any other GM, even if he's acting as the GM that he also is. GMs also don't get in front of the podium.
No,
He needs his screen time. He's
it's
got limited
ridiculous.
days on this earth, I guess, and so he needs to juice it for all that he can, which more power to you. Mortality comes for all of us, but come on.
It's honestly annoying. Like I like Dak Prescott a lot as a human. I think Dak's phenomenal.
Oh, yeah,
As a
big Dak guy.
person, he's he's kind of getting robbed having to put up with that. Anyone who plays for the Cowboys it's bad. It's just bad
Yeah.
right now. So Buffalo
Tell your
beats Miami.
story.
Yeah, man. So I'm sitting here Sunday morning. I get a call from our first guest of the year, Mr. Brant Stevens, who's in Buffalo for this game, has had this plan for about 6 months. Um, I've never heard a grown man with that kind of excitement in his voice
Yeah.
portrayed through a telephone call like that. It wasn't a FaceTime, it was just a phone call. Just pure elation, seeing guys break tables, people sharing food, dropped like $500 at the team store, got an authentic, the Stitch, like it was the last white Josh Allen Stitch jersey in the store and they had it in his size kind of a thing. And then all of a sudden he goes, I got to go. It's Josh Allen. And you just hear the crowd roar behind him. Like Josh is coming out to warm up. He then tries to call me again while I'm in church. Game hasn't kicked off yet. And I text him back and say, sorry, man. Like I'm in sacrament meeting. He goes, I'm just too excited. And you're one of the people who will appreciate this.
Yes.
Buffalo gets the win, man. 61-yard field goal. I was nervous for him there for a minute. I'm like, gosh, to fly all that way. I mean, I was in this boat with BYU a week ago, right? Flying across the country. You want to see, you especially want to see your team win in that situation. Tyler Bass, man, send him the Napoleon Dynamite. I caught you a delicious Bass gif right after the game. Buffalo wins 30-27. Dalton Kincaid, 4 catches, 32 yards. Taron Johnson had 4 tackles for the Bills.
Yeah, what a game. And all of a sudden, the AFC East standings, Jets are in second at 3-6, and the Dolphins fall to 2-6, even with Tua back. This becomes an insurmountable hole if you can't get a couple of these really close games with him.
I find it ironic that you and I are such Mike McDaniel fans, and I have
Mm-hmm.
rooted against him 2 weeks in a row now. That doesn't really happen with me and Mike McDaniel, but he played Arizona, and then I got to root for my buddy's team when he's
Right.
doing this, right? Like going across the country. So, yeah, Buffalo just keeps rolling.
Talk about keep rolling and AFC playoff hopes despite having a losing record. The
Yeah.
Cincinnati Bengals put it down on the Las Vegas Raiders 41-24. Despite 41 points, Ryan Rico got out there for 3 punts with 175 yards and a long of 65, and that is our Utah connection in this one. The Raiders are totally dead in the water.
Fired coaches already, a year in, not even a full year in, you're making coordinator changes.
Which Getsy, a lot of people around the NFL did not see that, especially when you have a defensive head coach.
Yeah.
You want the best of the best as your offensive coordinator, and you should pay him that way. And Getsy was this kind of retread that we saw coming, but yeah, they can't figure out a quarterback. They can't
No.
figure out now an offensive coordinator. Seems like Antonio Pierce is trending towards one and done, which we both were fans of
Yeah.
making that pick, but then you didn't support him at all. There's only so much you can do.
Like Brock Bowers is legitimately the only good football player on that offense, above average football player on that offense right now. It's not good. So Zach Moss going to be out a while as well. They haven't put him on IR yet. They're still getting some opinions on his neck, but it didn't sound like he was going to be back anytime soon. So just if anyone's wondering there,
the way Chase Brown's played when he does come back, it's going to be in a limited capacity.
Got me 26 this week in guillotine.
That'll save your neck.
Almost. I was gonna start Jordan Addison, who didn't do bad, got like 14. I could have started Addison over a different player, maybe Josh Downs, I think it was what the other debate was with. But then when I saw Moss was out, I'm like, oh no, Chase Brown starting for sure. And that was a good decision. So the Chargers get a win against Cleveland. Jameis Winston doing Jameis Winston things, a lot of turnovers. Chargers win 27-10. Alohi Gilman, 5 tackles, a pass deflection, and did have an interception. Mohamed Diabate, after his career game last week, another solid outing with 4 tackles and a pass deflection for Cleveland.
Chargers might be legit. I was I was afraid. I think we had a similar little storyline for why we picked against San Diego or the Los Angeles Chargers, in that they're not that good, right? They can't get to this kind of a record, and yet Harbaugh keeps them going forward.
He's just a good enough football. He just knows football too well, right? And get them a good receiver next year. Look out. Might be the biggest challenge to Kansas City that they've seen in that division in a while.
Yeah. Speaking of Chargers wide receivers, though, to round it out, Simi Fehoko did have a target early on in this game, but he exited with an elbow injury, and so we won't see him for probably a week or two in our little recaps. One of the first of the overtime games, the Patriots force overtime on a magical, long Drake May kind of play.
Looking like John Beck out there. Jeez.
But then Tennessee gets the win in overtime, 20-17. Shione Takitaki is back in the lineup and had a tackle in this game. That's our Utah connection.
Yeah, Drake May is going to be a good player, man. Like, he just has literally nothing right now. Like, he's got Ramondre Stevenson, and that's saying, like, Ramondre Stevenson's not like this elite back. He's just a decent, big, bulky back. Like,
yeah, and he was a low draft pick, and he kind of had one of those magical preseasons a couple years ago where people start to buy in and say, oh yeah, he could be something, and all of a sudden he is your best offensive, not even just skill position, because you can include that crummy offensive line in front of Drake May. Ramondre's your second best player. he was never that good. He was just this cool thing that could be something or a great change of pace. Yeah. New England still has a lot of rebuilding to do, and that's why I was a little bit nervous of Drake May
Yeah.
coming in this early, but he's getting good reps, and
Yep.
that's awesome.
Washington beats the New York Football Giants 27-22. Bobby Wagner, 7 tackles and a fumble recovery. Your lone Utah connection there. They did what we thought they'd do.
It ends up being a little bit closer
Yeah.
than it even felt or was,
Right.
and we didn't think it was going to be close either. So yeah, don't let 27-22 fool you. Washington won this game. How about
Mm,
the upset of the week, and then
without
but
question.
the one with the most ripples? So the Panthers getting a win at all
Yeah.
is going to be an upset. They
Bryce
did
Young
it
getting a
against
win.
the Saints, 23-22. Taysom is back around. He had 4 receptions for 44 yards, 5 carries for 19 yards, and a score. When they gave him that ball in that drive, I thought about the stat that we talked about, where if
Mm.
you give it to Taysom, you get to score, and then he just punched him himself a couple plays later. And then Dallin Holker for the Saints defense had a tackle. But the Saints lost to the Panthers, and that'll cost you your job.
Did you see my tweet after the game? I'm like, there's no way Dennis Allen's let into the facility tomorrow, right? To
And
which
then
someone replied, um, he's not getting off. He's not getting invited back on the plane, which I
yeah,
think he did fly home with the team.
and then they
But
let him know.
yeah, there was just no way. A guy I was calling for a year ago, obvious poor fit from the beginning. Saints are somehow a bigger mess than the Carolina Panthers right now. Long term, I don't, don't get me wrong, they're not. Well, cap wise, they're actually in a pretty bad hole right now. So I mean,
Yes.
maybe the Saint there's good ownership. I mean, I don't think this is something that's going to be as long as Carolina's, but like the Panthers are in a better position today than the New Orleans Saints, which you look back at week 1 when the Saints absolutely blew them out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's bad. It
So
is.
Derek Carr gets Dennis Allen fired for the second time in their careers. And who wants this job now? So the Saints have no future. Their cap situation is by far the worst in league history.
Yeah.
Just no team has ever done this with their cap. You are married to Derek Carr, who we both have had varying high hopes in during his career, but I think at this point in his career is on the downward trajectory and is not good and is doing his receivers harm and has former receivers calling him out on it.
Oh, Michael Thomas.
And
Oh.
so who wants this job? You're not going to be able to do something. It's going to be a couple one and dones. You're going to be cycling through guys like Houston was when they were in purgatory before they stumbled on D'Amico Ryans and CJ Stroud. Like you just got to kind of take your medicine for a couple years because there is no upside in
No.
continuing to kick this can down. And the Saints, whatever 2-0 start led us to believe in Kubiak or what the Saints could do. And yeah, they've had maybe the worst set of injuries outside the 49ers and the Rams and some other like really impactful ones.
Still.
But that just proves a couple of things go wrong and your entire season becomes the worst in the league. That means your ceiling was never high in the first place.
No, no. It's very telling. Very, very telling. Yeah. Oh, well, Sean Payton's old team had a rough go. Baltimore played like they had lost to the Browns the week before. They played angry. Win 41-10. Marcus Williams had 3 tackles. Kyle Van Noy had 3 tackles. Devon Vele, 2 catches, 11 yards. Cody Barton had 7 tackles for Denver. Jonah Ellss with the tackle as well. Yeah, this went about like I thought it would. There's just no way Denver was winning that football game. You lose to the Browns the week before. Lamar, that might have been Lamar's best game of his career, by the way.
Lamar's awesome.
Not bad for a running back.
Third MVP? Question mark?
I mean, it's a real it's
Who
more
else is
than a real
playing like this?
possibility. Yeah, like honestly, I mean, Josh Allen at times, but this consistently, like
And the Broncos are a good defense, right? Say what you want
right
about Bo
that
Nix, and I will, but the Broncos defense is legit and a big
yes,
reason why they have a winning record. And still after this embarrassment are still set for a wild card ish
right,
hopes, you know?
right.
Something we didn't say, Kyle Van Noy doesn't get this on his stat sheet, but if you were watching that first drive of the game, he's the reason why Bo Nix had that first interception
Mm-hmm.
because he is up in the face. Might have tipped it a little bit, but just sent it off trajectory. And Bo Nix has his first interception. Yeah, they never stood a chance. The other thing I would like to talk about a little bit, we're both college football fans also, and you can talk about the AP poll, and we're going to get our very first college football playoff
Yeah.
poll, which the way that you should, the methodology you should use in making college football rankings is looking at the resume and saying this win was better than this win, and so you rank them as such. When someone says power rankings, it should elicit I think it elicits a different kind of rankings because
Sure.
really the rankings of the NFL, if we did it this way and there weren't very clear cut and dry tie breaking procedures that got you into the playoffs, which is the best way to do things, college
Oh, without
football.
question.
But anyway, if there was a rankings for the NFL, the Chiefs should be at the top. They're undefeated and they beat the Ravens head to head. My personal power rankings, the Ravens are number one. I think that
I
this is
mean,
the best playing team in the NFL.
yeah, and it's Harbaugh. He's going to lose some games he shouldn't in the regular season. That happens. It's happened twice already this year when you look at it. But then look at what they do to good teams. They almost beat Kansas City. They pounded Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Denver's got a winning record and they pounded them. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that didn't just happen by a fluke for Denver. I mean, like you said, that defense has played well. So, man. Well, I think we're going to get our guest this week, Cole,
Yeah,
since his team won.
despite my best jinxing efforts here. So the two games that I went against you and your brother in our pick'em last week, the ones there were two of them where you two picked one way and I picked the opposite. One of them was Miami and Buffalo, which came down to the last play of the game. And the other was when Philadelphia just barely held on against Jacksonville 28-23, and that came down to Trevor Lawrence throwing an interception in the end zone that is mind-boggling. Our Utah connection is Devin Lloyd on the Jacksonville side, 8 tackles. But man, that game was closer than it had any right to be, and I should not have been right. Like that was a shot in the dark, and it almost panned out the way
Yeah.
I said, right? The Philadelphia Eagles cannot score early on. You allow Jacksonville to hang on and have hope despite being bad. And Trevor Lawrence should be better than that. Like
Yeah.
I don't think he's the QB archetype that throws that late game interception, but he's slowly falling into it.
It's weird. It's really weird. Yeah. Philly should have blown this out of the water. Dumb mistakes. Bad play calling, bad decisions when it came to some fourth downs and whether or not you should kick. So we might hear about that on Thursday. We
we want
might
to save, and also let's save some Saquon talk for if we get to
absolutely.
talk Eagles.
Absolutely. Cardinals, man, Jonathan Gannon's a defensive guy, and he is doing some really good things with Buda Baker, and that's about the only recognizable name on this Cardinal defense, and yet they're playing really well. Beat Chicago 29-9. That's 3 in a row and 4 out of your last 5 if you're Arizona. First place in sole possession of first place Arizona Cardinals. Mark the day, Cole. It's November 4th. BYU is undefeated and in first place in the Big 12. And the Arizona Cardinals, despite being just 5-4, are in first place in the AFC West. I'm liking my helmet setup at work right now.
Yeah.
Jalen Johnson did have 2 tackles and a TFL for the Bears, while Noah Sewell had a tackle for Chicago as well. Cardinals' run game is really, really clicking right now. It's the best run blocking I've ever seen.
DeMarcado on that last play before the half,
Yeah,
was it? And
just bizarre. Bizarre way this season's gone for Arizona. Didn't need to kick a last-second field goal this week, which was nice. And, boy, really need him to win this next week.
you started that off by saying Jonathan Gannon's a defensive guy, and he's got the defense playing up to things. Eberflus is a defensive guy, and this defense is underperforming where they need to be. And
especially
so
where they started.
when you have Caleb Williams on the other side, you really need to have a reason. You need to justify the fact that you still are hanging on to a defensive head coach, and it's for culture and it's for defense and for game management. And it seems like Eberflus has lost the locker room because you got DJ Moore saying things on podcasts and interviews. The defense just let the Cardinals, who have a good offense, but shaky defense, whatever. But like the run defense, especially, the Cardinals could do whatever they wanted against this team. And his clock management and instilling, hope in the guys was what lost him the game just last week when we were talking
Mm-hmm.
about the, Tyreek Stevenson going off off play and then not being able to rein things in and sitting him down and just his whole handling of things. Eberflus, again, I don't think there's only one way to win in the NFL. And so I liked that there was a team that didn't just automatically say, oh, we're going to get a quarterback. Let's fire our decently performing defensive head coach to get the young, hotshot offensive guy. But Eberflus might not be the best example
Yeah.
of carrying that forward because it seems like you're going to need the hotshot offensive guy to rein Caleb in and make sure you don't lose him because he's not playing great. He's good, but
Yeah.
there's better out there, and the defense is bad.
Yeah.
And Arizona benefited from it.
Big
So
time. Big time. Yeah.
you get the points. I said earlier that the Ravens would be number one in my power rankings. I think I believe that, but the Detroit Lions would be right there at
Mm.
1B. They get the win over the Green Bay Packers 24-14. Utah Connections, Tim Patrick still showing up, 2 receptions for 12 yards. Jordan Love, not his best game. It's rainy, it's messy. 23 of 39 for 273 yards and an interception. And then Chris Brooks on the Green Bay side, 3 receptions and 28
Yeah.
yards.
Jordan just didn't look healthy.
Yeah.
Bye week's coming at a good time for Green Bay. Get him rested up. Detroit just doesn't care who they play, and I love it. I think it's Dan Campbell, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
we don't care who we play. We don't care how we have to play to win. We're going to do whatever it takes to win, and that's just the mantra of this team right now. Yeah,
It's a
without
good one.
question. My gut told me Detroit, Baltimore at the beginning of the season for the Super Bowl. My heart told me Green Bay, Baltimore. I might be regretting that later, going with heart instead of gut. The reason the Cardinals are in sole possession, Cole, of the NFC West, the Rams get an overtime win over Seattle in a wild game where Seattle has like 2 good drives the entire game,
Yeah.
uh, and then stall out. They go for it on 4th down and overtime within field goal range. And I actually liked the call. I actually really liked that call to go for it on 4th and short,
Yeah.
deep in your own territory. Go win the game. And again, as presently constituted, that's why the NFL overtime rules are stupid. Rams win 26-20. Puka Nakua, 1 catch, 11 yards, and a punch.
Yep.
Can't be doing. There were some people really upset by it, saying you just can't do that, man. You can't move your hand in that motion. You can't. You just can't.
Mm-hmm.
I get that maybe it was a soft ejection compared to some other punches. He still threw a
Yes.
punch. He's
Yes.
still like at the end of the day, you just can't do that. And I'm a Puka guy. I'm a Puka defender. You just can't do that. Rams fans maybe need to grow up a little bit on that one, if I'm being completely honest. I saw a few tweets that were very eye roll worthy for me.
Right. Yeah. And the Rams get the win anyway at the end of
Yeah.
the day. And the Rams seem like they're back, and Puka is back next week, right? It was just an
Yeah.
ejection
It
for
was,
that game.
yeah.
Doesn't get any more suspension or league discipline. Probably
Nope.
a fine that we'll find out about,
Right.
whatever. But the Rams, with their full complement of weapons, are ready to make a run. Then Sunday night, Minnesota beats the Joe Flacco Colts 21-13. Julian Blackmon had 7 tackles, and then Matt Gay was 2 for 3 on field goals. His long was 54, and he hit his 1 extra point.
Yeah, not a whole lot. This game went about like I thought it would.
Yeah.
You know, it just kind of had that feel to it that this was going to be not the most exciting Sunday night game ever.
And it got flexed into Sunday night, I believe,
I
because the
believe
original
you're right.
schedules, because I remember I kind of messed up whenever we were doing our preview show. I thought that Philadelphia and Jacksonville were supposed to be the Sunday night game because I had them out of order on my sheet that I go off of. And then Philadelphia Jacksonville somehow managed to be more competitive than the one
Yeah.
they moved down into this. But good for Sam Darnold and the Vikings after a 2-game slide, getting back
Yeah.
into the win column and making sure that they don't let this roll totally out of control.
Well, I think it's good they got a win, and Darnold had 3 turnovers. I mean, he still didn't look
Mm.
great, but to get the win, get back on track, yeah, good for Viking fan out there. Colt Pickens are kind of slim this week for MVP. You had some injuries, you had some guys that just didn't play up to snuff, you had an ejection.
Right.
guys I like, Kaden Ellss comes to mind because he was all over the place for Atlanta. Um, Bobby Wagner was really, really good again for Washington. I thought Alohi Gilman played a really good game for the Chargers
Hmm.
and what they're trying to accomplish right now. At the end of the day, I just think Kaden Ellss was that much ahead of those other two guys. So I'm going to go with Kaden for my player of the week.
Ellis was good, and also I mentioned KVN causing that initial the way that Baltimore just ran away with this early. I would love to give it to someone on that Ravens defense for the way that they played the whole time. I think I'm going Bobby Wagner. Right?
Mm,
We talk about it like a little bit, but everyone in sports media should be talking about it a lot more. The fact that this Washington team is normally there are so many surprises in an NFL season. This year has gone basically how we thought. All the
yeah,
good teams are who we thought were, all the bad teams are who we thought, except for Jaden Daniels and this Washington Commanders team and Dan Quinn's group of old man defense, including Bobby Wagner he brought over from his old Seattle days. And it turns out, like I said, with the whole Eberflus and Bears thing, and Dan Campbell proves it as well. I love when teams can figure out a way that's against what everyone else that like the meta, the way you're supposed to do it. I love when people can zig when they're zagging, and the Commanders did in this offseason. They got absolutely railed for it. Everyone was picking them towards the bottom of power rankings in the preseason, and
seven
here
and
they
two.
are, and they're real, and Wagner's part of it in his old age, and so I give him my MVP. That's my vote. We're not going to turn it over to the electoral college around here. It's just two votes and a winner.
Oh man. Um, it was fun. We had a family group chat or a family call. All my family's on the East Coast. We had a family call last night. Don't know that I've ever been able to say this in my life at any point. Raise your hand if your team is in first place in their division. I was the only one who was able to raise his hand, and it
What?
was amazing. Got a salty response from Colby. Said, yeah, because you play in a crap division, which is true. Don't I'm not saying
Yeah.
by any means the Cardinals are better than Minnesota, Detroit, or Green Bay. They're better than Chicago, obviously. Um, but yeah, no, it's been football's just fun, man. It's just been a
Yeah.
fun season. Lot and we still got a lot of football left to be played, which is awesome. So
BYU still undefeated. And we've been dancing around it for 2 weeks now because both teams had bye weeks, but we are the Utah Connections podcast where we talk about all these graduates or at least, went to
attendees,
and attended Brigham Young University and the University of Utah. And that Holy War plays this Saturday. And that's exciting for the state. That's the
sure,
fact that Utah preseason had very high expectations and they have fallen short. BYU had very low ones and they have exceeded them. They're kind of two ships passing in the night. It would feel better if they're both playing at the top of their potential, but it's still the Holy War, and it's still
yeah,
where Utah fans collide.
it's gonna be really interesting. That's all I'm saying. It's gonna be really interesting. I might have more to say on Monday. I'm not saying anything on Thursday. We could just nick that in the bud right now.
Yep,
I might have some things to say Monday. We shall see.
we will
Appreciate you, brother. As always,
always.
it's always a good time. And yeah, life rolls on, the NFL rolls on, and it's always a good time to be an NFL fan. So appreciate you, and looking forward to catching up with our guy Gentry on Thursday. Should be a fun time.
Heck yeah, we're gonna talk some dynasty football too because I got some smack I can talk.
Nice, yeah, yeah. Play some fantasy football with our guest. He's a fun one to have in a fantasy league. That's for sure. Knows his stuff.
Oh
So
yeah,
appreciate you, my man. Enjoy your week, the best any of us can. And hey, we got BYU basketball tomorrow night. That's what I'm going to be doing tomorrow night. Uh,
there's
Wednesday.
nothing else people should be doing
I'm
right
watching.
on a Tuesday evening after
I'm
polls closed.
I'm watching college basketball tomorrow,
Uh
and
huh.
I don't think I'll turn my phone off necessarily, but I will be very interested to see how Kevin Young's team does.
Yeah. Yeah, up until this point, I didn't even know teams did these secret preseason games until this year in BYU fans because we got something to really look forward to.
Yeah,
You hope. Um, it's, yeah, everything seems like it's pointing in the right direction there.
he's Cole Wissinger. I'm Tanner Wilkinson. You've been tuned in to Wilk and Wiss, your bi-weekly update on Utah athletes in the National Football League. And you, the fan, we'll be talking Eagles coming up on Thursday.